Hi there and welcome back to this week's trade recap, and we are finally out of the red. I'm finally green on the week. And let's just recap the trades that I took this week because there is a lot of them. Usually I don't take that many trades, but finally this week we had some great things. Right here in the beginning of the week, I was somewhat bullish on Monday because here we had this trendline liquidity that I will show on the 5 minutes, but it wasn't that good because right here we had also this trend line below, but because we were on all-time highs, this tends to be more bullish than not. So if you zoom here on the 5, we understand that this is just perfect trend line liquidity, and this was at my target because we are at all-time highs and we have low resistance trend line liquidity. And here on the 5, this is just a pattern trade, a normal trade. I took this to the upside. Here we have also this 5 minutes. So what I did was along this 5, even knowing that we tapped this because the liquidity above us was really strong. But when we swept this 5 once again, and because we are still inside the CPR, because we swept this again, I wanted us to go higher quickly. So if we rejected this, I figured out that I would probably get stopped out. So I placed my stop at break even when we crossed the zone, and it ended up saving me. Yes, it saved me from a loss on inversion parabolic Alps, but it didn't quite tap the swing low, but this was just bad efficiency, and it's just something that happens on Monday, and when we have these conflicting draws between the low time frame and the higher time frame, and this was just the only trade that I took on Monday. Here I took 2 trades because it's almost the same thing. We almost have somewhat of a trend line liquidity above, and we went below. We delivered from this 15-minute to the left. We swept this 15-minute low, and with a lot of momentum, we inversed this to the upside. So I took this long with my stop loss here and my target here before the open, and I was going to place my stop at break even when we tapped this, but because we were so close to open, I ended up placing my stop earlier than this because I didn't want us to stop at the zone. So when we were here, I ended up placing my stop at break even, which was a mistake. My stop should be at break even at this swing high because once we tap this, we should keep going higher, not here. And I placed my stop here, I got stop at break even. Thankfully, this would be a break even if I only placed the break even when we tapped this high, but this could be a mistake that could keep me from having a really good win around here. And after all this, I was waiting for us to inverse this 1 minute because we left the 930 high, which is a really good liquidity pull. And I was waiting for us to inverse this 1 minute, but we did go down a lot, and we ended up still delivering from this hourly and this V-shaped recovery. And here on the 1 minute, I understood that because we had already tapped this, when we ended up inversing it, it will become support. So when we inverted it to the upside, my target was still this high, and I did take another long here, which was a more risky trade, but I ended up going break even again, and I ended up getting stopped at break even. The last one saved me from a loss, this one didn't, but because around here we took all this liquidity, I figured that this shouldn't stop here, and I would place my stop at break even every time here. There's another one that I want to talk about because still on Tuesday we had this 30-second, but for some reason I was only looking at 1 minute. I was so focused on this 1 minute that when this 30-second triggered, I wasn't even looking at it. And this is quite good because here we have some sort of accumulation, we have the manipulation and distribution to the upside, and our bias was bullish. We didn't have a good liquidity below for us to even have some sort of conflicting draws, and we had this trend line we were delivering from the 15-minute, just like on this one, and the 1 hour V-shape. So this was a really good trade to take, at least to the break even, because if you go on the 5-minute, still in this trade, we see that when this 30-second inversed, we had this big 5-minute PPR and CB to at least tap and grow break even. So this should be a trade to take, even just knowing that it may be a break even. So let's just take it to see if it can be a win, and it ended up going to the highs without a single problem. Wednesday it's a different thing that I'm Wednesday it's a different thing than what I am used to, because I don't short all-time highs. But I've seen and I've understand that usually we're told that we shouldn't short all-time highs because we don't have the data to know when or not to take shorts at all-time highs. But I figured that I already have some data to do it. And around here, as we can see, yes, we are at all-time highs, but there is a ton of liquidity around here. This, once again, is trend line liquidity. And we stopped at the trend line and we went to the all-time highs and we went it out down to take this. And if you go on the 1 minute, right at open, we were somewhat of accumulating up. And I was looking at the 30-second and I told myself that if we inversed something around here, we would be delivering from this 5 and 15 minute, and we would take this low time frame liquidity. And also, something that is really important to this day is that around this low we had equal lows. So this was my draw one liquidity. We had trend line on the higher time frame, trend line on the lower time frame, and we had equal lows on the higher time frame on a swing low. So I told myself that we would be delivering from the 15 minute, and this would be just accumulation, manipulation, and distribution to our draw one liquidity. It ended up taking buy side liquidity and taking all time highs, which wasn't something that I was expecting. But if we go on the 15 minute, we see that this candle still held the 15 minute. So on the 30-second, I ended up shorting this when it was still waiting for the close. Usually when we take the swing low, the trade becomes invalid. But I took this trade before we took the swing low, and I was so confident in this going down because of all this momentum, V-shape, and all the liquidity that we had below, that I didn't even place my stop at break-even, and I only placed the stop at break-even when we went down to these lows. So this was just a quick trade for me to take for around 1 hour because I took it around this low. Yes, it ended up going towards draw one liquidity that I wanted to, but because we were at all-time highs and I'm not used to take all-time highs, I just took the long-hanging fruits and I was really happy about it. Fast forward to Thursday, we had this lower time frame market maker buy model, and this was my target, and here we have this V-shape. So when we came down and swept this low, I was already looking for longs because here we have this, yes, we've swept the high here, but we have these relatively equal highs, some sort of a double top. And we took this, we delivered from the 50% of this leg. So I wanted to take this 1 minute, but we ended up having something even better than that, which was we swept this with zero displacement right at open. And if you go on the 30 seconds, we had an inversion with a ton of momentum. And here on the 30-second, I did ended up taking this trade, but I did get stopped at break even. Usually, mechanically, we go break even when we tap this high, and it tapped it and went down, but I didn't want break even here. I went break even when we tapped this because I didn't want us to respect this 1 minute, because I said that if we inverse this 1 minute to the upside, I will take this trade. So I didn't want us to respect this because my bias was so bullish in this day. And when we tapped this, it did weaken me out of my trade by 3 ticks, and it went straight up to the draw one liquidity, which it's okay because we still had more opportunities, because as I said, I would take that 1 minute if it got inversed. So when I saw all this V-shape, all this momentum going higher, we still had our targets. When we held above this 1 minute, I went in, not waiting for the close, because I knew that this could be a good trade for me to take with my stop loss close to the entry. And it ended up getting another break even because we swept this double top, went a little bit up, and it stopped at break even before taking these highs. I wouldn't change my opinion on this. I would probably change my opinion on this 30-second because we had such a good liquidity. We had such a good sweep with zero displacement. We held this. This was a really good trade, and I shouldn't place my stop at break even on this 30-second because it was so textbook and we shouldn't matter this 1 minute just like we didn't. But that is hindsight, and is something that I need to train more, not to trade so mechanically like I usually do. Because when I'm in a trade, I start thinking too mechanically to try and make everything perfect, and that makes me have some break-evens that could be wins. But the day wasn't over there, because after we swept this, we didn't have any follow-through. And we swept internal, we swept external, and if we go on the hourly, we delivered out of this 1 hour. So I understood that our bias should be something like this. Because we should, if we were bullish, we should go a little bit higher than this. And if we go here on the 1 minute still in this trade, we understand that after sweeping this high, we left the 930 wick, which, just like I said in the beginning of the video, it's a really, really good liquidity pool. And here we have the change in the state of delivery, and we inversed this 1 minute / 2 minute with a lot of momentum. So when I saw this, I just thought to myself that, okay, this is just straight up perfect. We have good liquidity below. We should run these lows, and I did take this trade. But the problem here is that I scaled just one contract, because this 930 wick is a protected low. Yes, after taking the high, after taking buy side, the protected low gets invalidated, but still being a rejection block, after sweeping the rejection block and going below it, it should act as resistance. So I took just one contract just to make sure that I had some profit, and I left the second one to these lows, which we eventually ran. But the market wasn't as efficient as I thought it would be, and it came up to balance the 5 minute, and we had some good 30-second setups that I didn't take because I had already my 3 trades. This first 30-second failed. We delivered from the CI, change the state of delivery, and this 30-second ended up failing, which if I entered this trade I would probably get a loss. But after it, we had the 1 minute, which we were still holding this rejection block. So this 1 minute was also really, really good. We should get 1 loss and then 1 win taking this. But I didn't want to take any more trades. I had already taken 3, so I was done for the day. And I had already 2 wins, 1 scalp and 1 full TP. So my week was pretty decent comparing myself to the previous weeks. So coming on to Friday, I didn't want it to lose, but I ended up losing, which made me just up 0.6 R on the wick. Because if we go here on the 5 minute, we had this sell side liquidity. We were holding all of this to the left side. So I thought to myself that after sweeping this, we could go higher. But something that I failed to understand was that this overall trend was bearish. Now in hindsight, it is easier to see. But at the time, as we can see here, this is a long-term high. And here we created a short-term high, and we swept it with 0 displacement. After sweeping this with 0 displacement and changing the state of delivery to the downside on the lower time frame, this is just straight up bearish. But that doesn't invalidate the trade that I took. I took a long because we had this NFP that a high. But the problem here is that I was really bullish because I was targeting this that a high from 5 a.m. and this that a high from NFP. But I didn't understand at the time that we could be a little bit bearish. So when the bias isn't that perfect, and when the bias isn't all aligned with the order flow, we need to go break. If we take a trade, we need to go break even as soon as we can. So here on this 3 minute, I took it around here, and I should have went break even when we tapped the CE, the consequent encroachment of the data wick. So this should be my break even, because if we are really bullish, we want to close above the CE and we want to hold the CE and go higher, which never happened. If we zoom in on the 1 minute, we understand that we held a little bit around the CE of the wick, and we ended up respecting it and going down, which made me understand at the time that I was on the wrong side of the market. Here I understood that the bias was bearish and not bullish, just like I thought it in the beginning. It's something to be learned. It's something to be learned that because the bias isn't aligned with order flow, we should go break even as soon as we can. So when the first roadblock appears, which was the consequent encroachment of the data week, I should go break even, because if we are really bullish, we should take the high. And after it, we had this short, which I didn't want it to take because we had already taken sell side and we still had the data week above us. So because I had a little bit of a conflicting draws, I didn't want to take any more trades. And also the first trade took a little bit of confidence out of me, so I didn't want to take any more trades in this day. But this 1 minute is decent because this is the just straight up pattern trade of 9:30 wick. We left at 9:30 wick, we came, delivered from the 5 minute, delivered from this BPR. If we respect this, it means that we aren't bullish at all, we are just bearish, and it ended up going straight to the downside, holding everything of this, inversing this to the downside, and taking sell side liquidity and even the new wick opening gap from 3 or 4 weeks in the past. That's it for this week. I am up, thankfully, not as up as I thought I would be, but it's pretty decent, and let's see if we can have some more profits in the next week. Thank you for watching. I'll see you in the next one. Bye bye.